Do you feel like something is changing inside you, but you still can't explain it? Maybe this is the sign you've been waiting for. Before we continue, click like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to ensure this message reaches more people. Now, write in the comments, "I'm ready for the new." This phrase isn't just a comment. It's a commitment to your new journey. Stay until the end, because this message could be exactly what you need to take the next step. How many times have you felt like something was about to change, but ignored that feeling? Maybe it was a recurring dream, a strange sequence of events, or that inexplicable feeling that the path you were following no longer made sense. You tried to move on as if nothing was happening, but something inside you knew. There was a sign, a warning that things would never be the same again. And now that signal is about to become inevitable. When God has a purpose for someone, He never allows that person to remain trapped in a meaningless life. First, He whispers, sending little alerts. Then He speaks louder, placing challenges and questions in your path. But when none of that works, He makes the change undeniable. And that's exactly what's happening to you right now. Coincidences become too obvious, situations start to repeat themselves in a frightening way, and everything inside you screams that it's time to wake up. What will you do when that signal finally becomes impossible to ignore? Will you continue to pretend that nothing is happening, or will you accept that the universe is pushing you to the next level? You can't run away from it forever. God is preparing something greater for you, and the sooner you accept this call, the less painful the process will be. But one thing is certain, your life will never be the same. The journey of a chosen one begins with a moment of rupture. It's when you realize that you can no longer continue living the same way, that things that used to make sense now seem empty. You look around and feel like something has changed. Not in the world, but within you. What was once comfortable now seems small. What was once bearable now becomes unbearable. This is the call that changes everything. Few people are prepared for this moment because it requires courage. You will be challenged to leave behind habits, beliefs, and even people that are no longer aligned with your new phase. And that won't be easy. Many will try to convince you that it's nonsense, that you're exaggerating, that this feeling is just a passing phase. But you know it's not. What is happening is real. God is opening your eyes, showing you that there is something greater in store for you, and this awakening cannot be undone. Now you need to decide. Will you ignore this call and continue living a life that does not reflect who you really are, or will you embrace this transformation and allow God to guide you to a new path? The choice is yours, but one thing is certain. After this call, nothing will be the same again. Most people live automatically, following rules they never questioned, accepting imposed truths without reflecting. But one day, something happens. You begin to notice things that previously went unnoticed, to feel energies that you had never noticed, to question truths that previously seemed absolute. This is the beginning of spiritual awakening, the moment when the veil begins to fall. This process can be scary. You feel like you no longer belong in the same places, that trivial conversations no longer interest you, that your soul yearns for something that you still can't define. It's as if a new reality is slowly revealing itself, and the more you accept this change, the clearer everything becomes. But not everyone around you will understand. Some will call you crazy, others will turn away, and you may even feel lost at first. But the truth is that this is the first sign that you are on the right path. Awakening is not a destination, but a journey. Each day brings a new discovery, a new revelation, a new challenge. God is showing you something that few can see, preparing you for something much greater. Now, it's up to you to decide whether you continue moving forward or turn back into the darkness of unknowing. But one thing is certain, once you start to see beyond the veil, you can never pretend you didn't see again. Have you ever noticed how, after certain moments of growth, some people simply disappear from your life? Friends that were once inseparable begin to drift away. Relationships that seemed firm begin to weaken. Opportunities that once seemed certain simply dissipate. At first, you may think you are doing something wrong, but the truth is different. God is cleaning you, removing everything that is not part of your purpose. The problem is that we are used to clinging to what we know. We want to maintain the same friendships, the same habits, the same lifestyle, because it's comfortable. But when you are destined for something greater, you cannot carry unnecessary burdens. Some people don't have the ability to go with you because they weren't prepared for this journey. They would get in the way, pull you back, prevent you from growing. And God knows that. This is why, without warning, He begins to remove everything that is not in line with what lies ahead. What you need to understand is that this process is not a loss, but a purification. God never takes something away without the intention of replacing it with something better. If some people and situations are leaving your life, trust. Something much bigger is about to enter. Accept this cleaning as a gift, because what comes after is infinitely better than what was left behind. Every transformation is accompanied by testing. The moment you begin to awaken to something greater, the universe presents you with challenges that seem unbearable. You feel pressured, tested, like everything is against you. But this isn't an attempt to make you give up. It's training. You are being prepared for something great, and every obstacle that comes your way is an opportunity to prove that you are ready. Tests come in many forms. They can be situations that require patience, people who try to get you off your feet, crises that put your faith to the test. You may even ask yourself, why is this happening to me? But actually, the correct question is, what do I need to learn from this? The chosen ones are not those who have an easy life, but those who face challenges and emerge stronger. Each test you overcome is confirmation that you are on the right path. So when life challenges you, don't see it as a punishment, but as an opportunity. God is shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you for a purpose much greater than you can imagine. And in the end, you will look back and realize that each test was actually a gift in disguise. Most people want change, but few are truly prepared for it. They want a better life, they want evolution, they want success. But when they realize that this requires transformation, they hesitate. Human beings have a natural attachment to what they already know, to what is predictable, to what brings a false sense of security. But real transformation doesn't happen within the comfort zone. It requires sacrifice, courage, and a willingness to abandon what no longer serves. If you are going through a process of intense change, know that this is not by chance. You are being called to something greater, and that calling comes with challenges. Suddenly, old beliefs begin to crumble. Patterns that once made sense now seem purposeless, and everything inside you screams that it's time for a new beginning. But at the same time comes fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing what was built, fear of not knowing what comes next. This fear is natural, but it cannot be stronger than your faith in the purpose God has for you. True transformation is not an easy process, which is why many give up before they even start. But those who face the discomfort and move forward are rewarded in ways they never imagined. If you feel like you are in the middle of this whirlwind of changes, understand, God did not bring you here to abandon you. He is preparing something that goes far beyond what your eyes can see now. The challenge is not a punishment, it is a refinement. And in the end, when you look back, you will realize that each obstacle was an essential step towards your ascension. If you feel like your life is stuck in a repetitive cycle, know that this is not a coincidence. Life has a peculiar way of teaching us lessons, and when we don't learn the first time, the same challenges come back in a different way, until we finally see what needs to be changed. How many times have you found yourself stuck in the same patterns, similar situations, exhausting relationships, difficulties that never seem to end. This happens because, at some level, you haven't yet broken with what's stopping you from growing. Breaking destructive cycles requires awareness and, above all, attitude. It's not enough to just realize that something needs to change. You need to make the decision to act. Many people live complaining about their reality, but do nothing to change it. They cling to old habits, insist on relationships that no longer make sense, maintain self-destructive behaviors because no matter how painful they are still familiar. But if you want evolution, you need to be willing to cut out everything that doesn't contribute to your growth. When you finally make that decision, something incredible happens. The weight that once seemed unbearable begins to disappear. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin to emerge, and your mind opens to possibilities that you previously couldn't even see. The universe responds to your courage. God honors those who decide to break away from everything that limits their potential. Now the question is, are you ready to take this step, or will you continue repeating the same cycles until you can no longer take it? Many times when we are facing difficulties, we have the feeling that God has moved away, that we are alone in the process. But the truth is the opposite. The most difficult periods in life are precisely those in which God is working most intensely within us. He is not punishing you. He is shaping you. Think about the greatest leaders, the great visionaries, the chosen ones who marked history. None of them had an easy path. On the contrary, they all went through unimaginable challenges before finally embracing their purpose. This happens because God never gives something big to someone who is not yet prepared to carry this responsibility. He tests, He teaches, He strengthens. Every tear, every disappointment, every closed door is part of this process. Now, look at your life. See everything you've overcome, everything that seemed impossible but is now part of your past. Each experience was training, preparation for something much greater. God is preparing you for a level that most people will never reach. But to get there, you need to trust, you need to endure, you need to keep going. In the end, when everything makes sense, you will see that every difficult moment was actually a gift in disguise. Have you ever felt that as you grow spiritually, you begin to withdraw from people? Like you're suddenly alone, unable to connect with those who were once a part of your life? At first, this may feel like a punishment. You wonder if you are doing something wrong, if there is something wrong with you. But the truth is that this isolation is part of the plan. When God is taking you to a new level, He first separates you from the noise of the world. He creates a space where you can hear His voice clearly, where you can reconnect with your essence without distractions. The problem is that many people confuse this process with loneliness and end up returning to environments that no longer make sense, just to fill the void. But if you truly want to evolve, you need to accept this period of separation as a blessing, not a punishment. This isolation has a purpose. It is strengthening you, teaching you to trust yourself more, to depend less on validation from others. You are not alone. God is working behind the scenes, setting the stage for the next phase of your life. When this cycle ends, new people will appear, new opportunities will arise, and everything that previously seemed uncertain will begin to fall into place. Trust the process. We all go through moments when we feel aimless, as if all the doors were closed, as if there was no clarity on which path to follow, and in these moments, doubt sets in. You wonder if you are on the right path, if you made the right decisions, if there really is a purpose for all of this. But what you need to understand is that feeling lost is part of the process. No one who was called to something big had a linear trajectory. True growth comes from moments of uncertainty, because they are what force you to look for answers within yourself. When everything is confusing, when the answers seem far away, that's the sign that you're being directed towards something new. The question is not whether you will find the path, because it is already mapped out for you. The real question is, Are you willing to continue even if you don't see the next step? Faith is what keeps you going when logic fails. What you need now is not all the answers, but trust. Confidence that God is in control, that everything has a purpose, that this moment of uncertainty is not the end, but just a transition to something much greater. Keep walking. The path will reveal itself at the right time. Not everyone is prepared for the truth. Many prefer to cling to illusions, follow comfortable patterns, and live within the limits imposed on them. But those who awaken realize that this journey is not for everyone. You can try to share your discoveries, you can try to open the eyes of those around you, but sooner or later, you will realize that some people just don't want to see. And that's okay, because this journey is reserved for those who have the courage to face reality. Those chosen were always a minority. From the earliest times, those who carried a greater purpose were ridiculed, rejected, and even persecuted. Jesus, the prophets, great visionaries, they all went through it. Because when you refuse to go with the flow, when you question the rules of the game, you become a threat to those who live in illusion. And therefore many will try to convince you that you are wrong, that your intuition is just imagination, that it is easier to simply accept life as it is. But you know that's not true. You feel like there's something bigger going on. So stop seeking approval. Stop trying to convince people who don't want to listen. Your journey does not need the acceptance of others to be valid. God chose you for a reason, and there is nothing anyone can say or do that will change that. The call has already been made. Now the question is, will you answer? If lately you feel like many things are leaving your life, be it people, opportunities, or even certainties that previously seemed unshakable, know that this is not a mistake. God is removing everything that is not part of his path, and that can be painful. It can feel like you're losing control, that you're running out of options, that everything is falling apart. But in reality, this is the time when everything is being reorganized so that you can live what you were truly meant to live. Often, we insist on keeping by our side what no longer has a purpose. Relationships that weaken us, habits that limit us, beliefs that imprison us. But God sees what we cannot see. He knows that for you to get where you need to be, certain weights need to be left behind. Then he begins to move the pieces, to remove what no longer serves, to close doors that you would still be afraid to close on your own. Trust this process. Don't try to hold back what needs to go. Don't despair when something is removed from your life. God never removes something without having something much greater to put in its place. You may not see it now, but in time everything will make sense. Just move forward, knowing that every loss is actually a release in disguise. Once you awaken, there is no going back. You can even try to fit back into the old world. You can try to follow the same routines, go to the same places, have the same conversations. But something inside you changed. What used to make sense now seems lifeless. What used to hold you back no longer has any power over you. You are no longer the same person, and you never will be again. The path in front of you has already been opened. God showed you something that cannot be forgotten. You felt the call, you saw the signs, you understood that there is something greater in store for you. But now comes the most difficult moment, the decision to move forward, even without all the answers, because the biggest challenge of awakening is not seeing the truth. It is having the courage to live that truth. And that means abandoning your old identity, leaving behind everything that doesn't accompany you in this new phase. Don't try to go backwards. Don't try to fit in where you no longer belong. Life pushes you forward because your purpose is in the future, not the past. The path is already open. Now it's up to you to take the next step. Every chosen one goes through one last great test before their life changes forever. This is the moment when everything seems to be against you, when difficulties intensify, when doubt becomes stronger than ever. You feel like you're close to something great, but at the same time, it feels like you're being tested in every way possible. It's as if life is asking you, are you really ready for this change? This final test is not a punishment. It is preparation. God is testing your faith, your resistance, your ability to trust even when everything seems uncertain. He wants to see if you are ready to carry the blessing you are about to receive, because what comes after this phase is not for everyone. It's for those who don't give up, who keep their vision, who keep moving forward even when everything seems to say otherwise. If you feel like you're in that moment right now, know that you're closer to your turning point than you think. This is the last step before the definitive transformation. Don't give up. Don't allow fear to stop you from achieving what is already being prepared for you. Take a deep breath, keep the faith and move forward. The new one is coming. Now that you've gone through all these phases, the signs, the trials, the losses, the isolation, and the great final test, there's only one thing left, the new life that awaits you. What once seemed impossible is now within your reach. What was once just a distant desire now begins to manifest itself in your reality. You are about to experience what God has always planned for you. But remember, this new life requires a new mindset. You cannot carry the fears of the past into this new phase. You can't let insecurities stop you from enjoying what's coming. This is the time to trust, to open yourself to the new, to embrace everything that God has placed before you. You didn't go through all this for nothing. Every test, every loss, every difficulty had a purpose. You were polished, strengthened, prepared for this moment. Now the final choice is yours. Will you accept this new life, or will you remain stuck in what no longer belongs to you? What comes now is not the end, but the true beginning.